Now it's time for a breakdown.
Scope parallax. All right, guys. Now, I went into this in another video, but in that other video that you'll see a link to below, mainly what you saw was the effects of parallax. What I'd really like to talk about today is how to adjust your scope parallax and get rid of those aiming errors that may be driving your ass crazy. Okay, first, real quickly, what is parallax? Parallax in a scope, its parallax error, is when the object that you're aiming at downrange is not on the same focal plane as the reticle inside of the scope. If what you're aiming at is on a different plane, what you'll see is a shift. Anytime you move your head or your eye position, you'll get a shift that can lead to a lot of misses. To combat this is the focus or parallax adjustment on a scope. Scope manufacturers call it both ways. Sometimes they say focus, sometimes they say parallax adjustment. Ideally, when it's at the sharpest focus, it's parallax free, but that's not always the case. Because that is not always the case, that's what we're going to work on today. Now, what you'll want to do is get your gun stationary at the range at the distance that you're wanting to shoot. Whether or not you're using a rest, bipods, or if you have some type of fixture like this, that's another way to set it up. But normally, all you really need to do is get your gun good and steady and aim down range at the distance that you're wanting to set it for. And then you're going to do something that's going to look ridiculous at the range. You're going to take your head, move it up and down and sideways. And when you do, if you see the shift that you're seeing right now, that means that it's not right.
Now, in order to get it right,
take the side focus, the front adjustable objective, or in the case of the SWFA fixed power scopes, where the magnification normally is, that's where their parallax adjustment is. Slowly move your head around and move the parallax adjustment until the movement stops. Again, ideally when the movement stops, it'll be at the sharpest focus, but that's not always the case. You may have to choose between having razor sharp focus or parallax free. What I normally do is I'll take the scope and get it parallax free. Once you do, a lot of times on the actual eyepiece itself, now the eyepiece, all it does is focus the reticle, but because you're refocusing something, sometimes it'll help focus the image down range just a little bit sharper. So get your scope parallax free, take your eye focus, tweak it just a little bit until the reticle and the image is in focus. Once the image is in focus, the parallax is out, then you know any aiming errors that you have will be you, it'll be the gun, the ammunition, whatever. But you don't have to worry about adding group size to a group you haven't even shot with. Now, something not to get hung up on are the numbers that are printed on the dials, whether it's on the front or on the side. Those are just a rough guess. Treat those numbers like 1 through 10 on a volume control on a home stereo. It doesn't mean anything. Most precision shooters that I personally know put a piece of tape on it and make their own marks. What you're trying to do is get the parallax out regardless of what the numbers say. Now, there are scopes that you can take that side focus, loosen it, and turn it and tighten it down just like you're re-zeroing a scope turret to get the parallax where you want. But if it doesn't, don't worry about it. As a matter of fact, a lot of the really high-end scope manufacturers now are not even putting numbers on it because too many scopes get returned because people think that it's not set up right when everybody's eyes are different. When you go to the range, you want to whip the shit out of everybody out there. The best way to do it is to take as much error out as you can before you ever pull the trigger. Does changing the magnification affect the parallax? It doesn't. What it affects is the apparent parallax, because as the magnification goes up, you'll be able to see the aiming error more. But if you turn the magnification down, it is still there. All right, fixed parallax scopes. Most fixed parallax scopes are generally set at 100 yards, unless it's something like a rimfire fixed parallax, and then it's usually set at either 50 or 75. The reason they have a set focus is they try to figure out where most of your shooting will going to be, and they want to give you the highest chance of success that you can. Now, on a hunting scope, especially if it's a big game scope, a small amount of parallax error is not going to amount to missing an animal. As a matter of fact, on my personal hunting guns, I don't have anything that has an external parallax adjustment except for my long-range precision guns that I'd use for stuff like prairie dogging and that kind of stuff. Basically, you bob your head around like a turkey, you look downrange until the reticle stops moving and the target's no longer moving. When that happens, you know you got every bit of the parallax dialed out of it. You are ready to shoot the best groups that gun is capable of shooting. Check this video and this playlist out. I think it'll help you a bunch. And if you hadn't already, subscribe. What are you waiting for? Get your ass down there and subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys, and I really sincerely hope this does help.